Hi, my name is Iman. Welcome to my channel. We're going to be doing what's for dinner, planning for dinner, grocery hauls, as well as planning. And sometimes we might be doing a day in the life. So please, if you like what you see, like and subscribe and share with your friends. Hi, tonight what's for dinner is barbecued spare ribs. We're having Stovetop Kisses Old School mac and cheese, an adaptation of it, and we're having baked beans. In order to make my rub, I'm going to need to measure out a 1/4 cup of brown sugar. Now this is a recipe I literally just made up now. So we'll see how it goes. That's about a 1/4 cup. 2 tablespoons of the chili powder. 1 tablespoon of paprika, and this is basically for coloring more than anything else. Then 1/2 teaspoon of Steak and Shake seasoning. Now I'm using this instead of the salt because this is kind of a salty seasoning, so I'm just doing 1/2 tablespoon. Then I'll do a teaspoon of black pepper. Ooh. Okay, a teaspoon of black pepper, a teaspoon of garlic, and then a teaspoon of onion powder. I'm going to mix those up, and then once I clean the ribs and remove the membrane, then I'm going to, I'll show you what I'm going to do. So let me mix this up together. Oh, it's looking good. All right. Okay, so that looks good. So now I'm going to clean the ribs and remove the membrane. Okay, so what I purchased, I purchased these from Walmart. It's a Smithfield All Natural. It's naturally tender and juicy, hand selected for quality, no added hormones or steroids, and it's extra meaty pork back ribs, and I purchased them for $11.35. So what I'm going to do now is remove them from the packaging. Ooh, I'm going to wash them and then remove the membrane. Then they'll be ready to cook. Let me put this in the sink. Okay. Put them down here so that I can dry them, but first let me wash my hands. Okay, so you have to remove this membrane. If you don't remove the membrane, then they are going to be very, very tough to eat. So once you get a hold of it, you can easily remove it. Oh, okay. So the membrane is removed. You just want to dry this. Make sure after you work with meat, whether it's pork, beef, or chicken, that you clean your workspace very well. All right. So I'm just going to move this over here. I'm putting this onto a greased piece of foil. All right. Here's my seasoning. Putting the seasoning on the back side of it. And then what I'll do is rub it in. I can't remember if I mentioned, but I preheated my oven to 400. Okay. Flip it over. And a trick that I learned, and trust me, I'll wash everything. Trick what I learned is to put mustard, yellow mustard, onto your pork. This allows the seasonings to stick to the ribs, and you don't really taste it. Come on. There you go. All right, we're gonna rub this onto the ribs. That's right, baby. You're gonna be in my belly tonight. Okay. This is messy, but the end result is well worth it. Okay, now here we go. We're gonna season it. And we're gonna be very, very generous, because we want this to soak through. And actually the mustard, I believe, kind of tenderizes the meat as well. Now, what you can also do is you can, and this is mostly if you're doing it on the grill, you can put it, when you wrap it up, put some apple juice in it, which also gives that, see, look at how nice. The apple juice will also tenderize it, and then of course give it that yummy flavor. Okay, let's see. Let's make sure we get everything down here. Okay, I'm gonna rub it or press this into it. I'm gonna get the sides. Make sure you get all the sides, because you want all of that to soak into the meat. Now, this is going into the oven. It's gonna go on 400 degrees, as I said, and then we're gonna cook it for 4 hours in this foil. Once it's done, I'll take it out of the foil, put some barbecue sauce on it, and then put it under the broiler for probably another, I don't know, 5 minutes or so. All right, so let's wrap this bad boy up. I have other foil here, just in case. Okay, hold on. I need to wash my hands because I need to get out some more foil. All right, I want to make sure that this is wrapped tightly and that all the juices stay in here. Okay. Again, we're putting it into the oven for 400 degrees for 4 hours. Once it's done, I'll show you what I've got. And then also with this meal, I'm going to make mac and cheese, and we're just gonna have canned beans. I'm not gonna do anything special. I mean, usually with these beans, I love Bush's beans. So Bush's, please sponsor me. Anyway, what I like to add to these is some ketchup, a little bit of brown sugar, some mustard, and then sometimes onion, sometimes bacon. It just depends on what I feel like doing. But today I'll probably only add a little bit of ketchup and mustard to it. I'm an hour into the cooking process, and here's what's going on. I can't wait to taste this. Okay, now I adapted this macaroni and cheese recipe from Stovetop Kisses. She's a YouTuber, and it's called the Old School Southern Baked Mac and Cheese. So what we're gonna do is, I already boiled the yeah, the egg noodles or the elbow macaroni, excuse me, with some 32 ounces of chicken broth. And I added just a little bit of water also to it. Next, I'm adding a whole stick of butter in here. This is gonna be decadent, you guys. It's gonna be really good. So I wanna mix this around so that the butter can melt. All right, just keep mixing it. And then while this is melting, let me go ahead and add her recipe calls for paprika. So I'm just gonna sprinkle a tiny little bit of paprika, and this is all again for color. Because paprika generally does not have any kind of flavor. I'm gonna put in some salt. I use Morton's light salt. Just a little bit of that. Some black pepper. All right, and let me go ahead and mix that around again. We want that butter to get in there to coat every single one of those elbow noodles. Okay, it's melting pretty good. Okay, and then I'm going to transfer it into this dish that I have already buttered. So I'm transferring this in here. Whoa, sorry. That's already. I want to get every last drop. Okay, so then we'll go ahead and lay this out. Next is the custard that we're going to pour on here. Right in here, I have 3 eggs. I need to whisk those eggs. Okay, and to that, I'm adding some heavy whipping cream, a whole container, which I believe it's 16 ounces of heavy whipping cream. And then I'm also adding, her recipe calls for whole milk. I don't have whole milk, I have 2% milk. So this is 2 cups of 2% milk. Go ahead and mix that around. And before I do, I'm just gonna go ahead. The recipe calls for 8 cups of cheese. I'm using all the cheese that I have in my fridge. So I'm using the Mexican 4 cheese that I used in a recipe this week. I'm using mild cheddar, and then I'm using extra sharp cheddar. So let me go ahead and sprinkle some of this in here. And I'm gonna mix this around before I put the custard in. This is gonna be some kind of goodness. Now let me just put the whole package in there. Okay, where's my spoon? Right there. Oh, it's already melting because the noodles are so hot. Once we do all of this, I'm going to go ahead and put it in the oven. And my ribs are still cooking, and the oven is already on 400 degrees. So I'll just go ahead and cook this for 35 minutes in the oven. And by the time this is done, the ribs should be done too. Okay. Go ahead and pour this custard over it. This is going to be so good. All right. And we're going to take some of this mild cheddar. Sprinkle some of that on top. This is no diet food. So if you are on a diet, you need to just forget it for this day. You've got to try this recipe. Okay, we're going to put some extra sharp cheddar on there. We like our mac and cheese nice and cheesy. All right, there you go. Okay, wait, just a little bit more along the edges. My mouth is watering from this. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and stick this in the oven. It's gonna bake for about 35 minutes. And once I pull it out, the ribs should be done. But what I'm gonna do with the ribs is I'm gonna take them out, unwrap them, put some barbecue sauce on them. I'm not making a homemade barbecue sauce. I'm just gonna use Sweet Baby Ray's because that's what we like. I'm gonna brush it on that, let it sit under the broiler for about 5 minutes, and then we'll be done. Okay, excuse me. Ooh, wee. Okay, there you go. Okay, now we need to take this out just for a second and put some barbecue sauce on it, and then I'm gonna put it back in the oven. Oh yeah, these look good. They look really good. And I bet you they're fork tender. Yep, look at that meat, just flaking off. Okay, let me go ahead and brush this barbecue sauce on it. Just slather it on. This is Sweet Baby Ray's barbecue sauce. I didn't make my own. Oh my, it looks so good. And the mac and cheese is looking really good too. Okay, this is mouth-watering. I'm gonna try to get all of this sauce on there. All right, right there. You see that? Right here. Okay, this meat literally is falling off the bones. There's a nice piece of, oh, see, look at that meat. Woo-wee! That looks good. And then the mac and cheese, look at how delicious this looks. And then some baked beans. These are canned beans. I added about 2 tablespoons of brown sugar, about a squirt of ketchup, and a squirt of mustard. So here you go. Baked mac and cheese, barbecued ribs, and baked beans. That's what's for dinner.